Hey, ministry leaders, good to be with you this morning. And Brian, we're coming up on 18 years of Auxano. You've been with us
I
10,
know.
but 18 years for Auxano coming up here in the next month or so. And it is
It's
a
crazy.
blessing to be able to serve the bride like He's enabled us to do that over the years, and partnership with you and other team members that we have here. So we are excited, and really the I would say that the inspiration behind today's topic of our webinar, that is really these ideas of five staffing questions, right, that have to be answered, that we've got to address, really kind of reside in a reality that we all have. So if you're like me, here's some of the reality. Every single day, we wake up with this kind of idea as a ministry leader that staff is both our greatest blessing and can also be our worst nightmare. In many times the same breath, and many times the same person. And so there's a bit behind that, and I am very comforted in Scripture when Paul gives me a promise in Psalms. Go ahead. In Psalm 78:72, where he says he shepherded them with a pure hearted hand guide, and guided them with his skillful hands. So he shepherded them with a pure heart, right? But he also guided them with skillful hands. And it's a promise that's given to me, and quite frankly, it's a challenge, and really almost somewhat, like I said, inspiration behind today, and being able to serve as co-founder of Auxano and CEO. We've been able to serve and spending 17 years in ministry prior to the 18 years here at Auxano. Staffing is always an issue. And what is it called now, Brian? I hear, I'm going to say it wrong, the great resignation season right now?
The Great Resignation. Yeah.
Yeah. And so a lot is changing as it relates to staffing, not just within the local church, but in culture everywhere, right? And so we definitely know a lot's changing even within church staff. And what I want to do today is I want to kind of almost have an apostolic posture with you today, team. And I want us to think a little bit. I actually want to address these five questions with really by pushing you to the point to where, as I ask the questions, a mental snapshot of someone that's on your team or used to be on your team or someone that you served with comes to your mind. I really want this to be something that you are, applying in absolute real time as we walk through it. A staff member, maybe a key leader that's in your ministry. We know many key leaders in our ministry aren't necessarily paid staff, but they operate in that very strong paid, that director leadership staff role, regardless of any type of pay. And you know what? If the question comes and nobody comes to mind, and you kind of get a little bit proud of yourself, maybe a little cocky, that maybe you feel like you passed that one, just give yourself as a leader about a day, and you'll probably have someone come to mind in that particular question. I mean, that's the reality, right, of people and everything. So the five new staffing questions that now must be answered. I'm gonna jump right into them, Brian, and fly along, man. Let's just kind of interact here on this a little bit as we go. So the first one is a question of who in your ministry, who are you leading that needs a new challenge? Who in your ministry needs a new challenge? Now, every question, so you get the rhythm going here, every question is going to be paired with a principle. So here's the principle, right? The principle of placement. Do you have people placed where you feel like they should be placed or where they're needed? Now, we've heard 1,000 times over, are they in the right seat? Are they on the right bus? We hear those questions all day long, right? But really what we're asking here is this question. Do you have people, is there someone in your ministry right now, in your team, that you are sitting here and you're sitting there going, wow, I've got this person, and you know what? If I don't keep them challenged, I'm going to lose them in 12 months. Like they're probably in the right place. or maybe they're in the wrong place and need to get to another place. Right? They need some type of challenge. They need to be, and I like to think right now at this season, they need a redeployment. Working with the church right now in Indianapolis, and the conversation that we're having right now, or the process that we're doing on the staffing organization process that we're doing with them, is really kind of looking within their current team, and okay, before they backfill a new staff hire, they're considering redeploying a current one. With who? Somebody who needs a new challenge. Someone that the culture already fits. It's already a sweet spot. I can't tell you the number of pastors I've sat down with after spending some one-on-one time with some ministry leaders and staff members, and looking at that pastor and said, listen, this staff member is killing it, but they're going to need a new challenge in 12 months. And if you don't get in front of that, they're going to be capped here at this church. They're going to be capped under your leadership. They're going to be capped in this position. They're going to be capped in this environment, and they're going to lose. They're going to leave. They're going to go find somewhere else to get that cap removed. And so the principle of placement says, hey, listen, we got to constantly be thinking, especially with the change in culture that's happened. How many of you are sitting there going, man, we got this online worship thing going on now, and it is a mushroom that is just getting bigger and bigger and bigger in how we handle it, how we take care of it, who gives oversight to it. And you're out there, and many times trying to find additional people to hire. And you may have somebody right there underneath, right there in another position at your church on your staff that can be redeployed to that. And here's the caution. Here's the caution I'm going to give you. Don't add layers of complexity. If you will kind of embrace the principle of placement, that's going, hey, we may need to maneuver some people. Think jigsaw puzzle, right? Or just think something that you're kind of moving somebody, like that you think it's going to fit here, but you know what? They really fit up here. You will start having that type of perspective, and you'll follow that principle. You will resist. You will be able to resist that temptation of adding complexity.
Jim,
so go ahead.
I'm sorry, Jim. I was gonna say, you've talked about this this placement, the principle of placement, from both the staff member point of view. Hey, we've got somebody who needs a new challenge. We've got somebody who may need to be refocused or in order to sustain them, repositioned.
Yeah.
You've also talked about it from the strategy side of it as well. Hey, we've got this hole over here. We've got this need over here. Is there one that's driving the other right now, or is it a combination of both?
Yeah, right now, I would say, Brian, it's a great question. Right now, here's what I would say. I would say that a void in and we'll get to this in a few moments, but a void in strategy and in need for certain positions right now, today, in January 22, December 21, last 4 to 6 months, is driving that a little bit more.
Yeah.
Because of the disruption of staff, of the staff structure as a whole. People have converted to, we'll talk about this in a minute too. People converted to remote, and they're not remote leaders, even church leaders. Even many of our churches have gone to remote offices and stuff. So they're losing people from that aspect of it. So I would say it's positionally around strategy and the team more than it is around the person getting the. But I will say that historically, it is far higher that it is a person looking for that right fit than it is trying to get it to strategy.
Good, thanks.
Second question is who's leading out? Who's leading out? Now, what's the principle here? The principle is the principle of progress. The principle of progress. Now, I have a feeling I'm going to either perk some interest here or possibly even, I don't know, maybe even ruffle some feathers here and just kind of the thinking behind this. What we want to do here in this particular question is we want to ask, what is the makeup of not just our team, but what's the kind of, what's the posture of the staff members that we have. Do we have a staff member, a leader that is progress driven? Do we have one that's order driven? We're going to talk, obviously there's certain levels of pros and cons on that, but through the years we have kind of developed this little bit of a you see it in the form of a quadrant with a matrix with a bell curve in the middle. But just kind of walk through this with me just for a few moments, and we talk about the idea of progress and order, and really the duplicity of those two skill sets that a ministry leader has, right? And so if we are working with the ministry, if there's a ministry leader, and by the way, plot yourself. Don't just plot somebody on your team. Plot yourself as we're on the webinar today. Are you a progress without order leader? Are you a progress without order leader? Meaning that the leader is going to focus on progress at the what? At the expense of communication and organization. They're nailing it. They're killing it in the sense of moving forward, and there's bodies in their wake. Yeah, they may be having good results, but it almost looks like chaos, or it does look like chaos, right? In some way or another, they're having progress, but you know what you have? You have ministry leaders burn out. You have volunteers saying, I can't work with them. You have families going, I'm so frustrated, right? You have participants in the ministry having a certain level of just kind of confusion and being lost because maybe there's progress, but there's no order to it. Then and we're going to come back to the second quadrant. Let's go up to the very top. There's this idea of progress and order. Progress and order. Progress and order is when the leader, you as a ministry leader, you attempt to balance progress and order. But here's the challenge. Here's the thing that happens. There is a natural, almost innate tendency to drift to what is known and what is safe. So when you're trying to balance them, like if you're intentionally trying to balance them, in almost every scenario that I've been a part of and have evaluated teams from over 10,000 in weekend attendance and even down and help them think through this aspect of it, have found that there is a natural affinity to drift toward what is known and what is safe, and ergo drifting toward the order. Right? At first, you think that's exactly where we want to be, right? This perfect balance of progress and order. But look what happens, because it is a slippery slope. It does not take long for progress and order to digress into order is progress. We sit in staff meeting and we talk about the success of our church, and that success is talked about not based upon life change, not based upon the people that we're reaching, not based upon how we're discipling people at unprecedented levels. We're talking about progress based upon how organized everything was and how easy it was for everybody to be a part of it. And so what happens? We drift into this managerial mindset as a leader that quite often, at least in what we see within churches across America and the churches that some of which we serve, is that often results in ministry plateaus and decline. Right? Kind of sobering. Where I am, it's sobering. And so it's also challenging for me to not only for me to push my own leadership style, but for me to kind of gravitate and kind of ask the question, really, who is it out there? Really, who is that person that's leading out with this progress before order posture? In this case, the ministry leader prioritizes movement, right? So they're like, we got to be moving forward. But what else do? They adapt their methods as they need to and they catalyze everyone with them as they go. That's this idea of progress before order. And as someone who has been responsible for calling and for being a part of bringing on, probably in my ministry career, hundreds of people, I'm going to tell you right now, personality is a thing, and all the things that we do to try to figure out. But I'm going to tell you right now, the one thing that I have an affinity toward now at this stage in my life, regardless of the person's age, is, do they have a progress before order posture? And I'm looking on my team, and I'm drawn to people who have the progress before order affinity. Let's make this happen. Let's move it forward.
Jim, I'm processing this, and there's a certain amount of fear and trepidation I could have as a leader of, man, how do you handle that? Like, how do you handle a team of leaders who are kind of moving first? I love that you're clarifying there that they're adapting. It's not a progress without order.
Right.
I'm just blazing forward, come what may. It's going to be my way or the highway. And they're also including others. So there's order that's in there, but still that feels like a leadership challenge if I have a team of people. And I know there's a question that's come through the chat. How does that play out when you have a team who are progress before order leaders? Talk to us about the realities of leading those people.
Yeah, you have to, well, first of all, and we've all heard the phrase, right? It's like herding cats, isn't it? It can be like herding cats. I do feel like the idea of herding cats is really in that first category, right? To where there's progress without order. And that really is how it feels many times. But progress before order, remember, there's controlled order there. There's passion. All you really have to do as a leader is that you have to make sure that you're not getting in the way of ministry leaders that have a progress before order posture, right? That you are enabling them, you are equipping them. There are people in my ministry that I can name by name, both in the local church and now serving on the local church, that I could say to you, because of a progress before order posture, they almost have this like golden ticket, this pass of literally grace and forgiveness to move forward and to fail forward, because I know I trust them, because the order is coming, right? The order is, there's enough order there, or the order is coming, but you know what? They're building that bridge while they're walking on it. They're not scared, and I'm not scared. And so, a little bit of some leadership maturity steps in on our behalf, because we have to learn to trust at another level. Yeah.
There's I'm getting some private messages, and rightly so, given the topics and those things about just, okay, so you got a team, maybe there's a lot of high S, high C's on the disc, who need that order and really need too much order. Jim, how have you encouraged progress in the lives of those people?
Super,
as a leader.
Actually, super easy, Brian. Super easy, because a high C on is going to be someone who's detailed. You know what? They calendar progress.
Okay.
It's a novel idea. They put a deadline
progress
in front of them, and they schedule it, right? You schedule progress. Put a deadline in front of them. A high S, or even a high I maybe. What do? There's people around them. A high S, there's somebody around them that helps hold them personally accountable, because they love the life on life energy, right? They love being in relationship with somebody. And so a high S is going to have somebody that's alongside of them that's helping to hold them personally accountable for progress that's in front of them, right? And so you just adapt that S you adapt that progress to their particular leadership style, their particular personality and things like this. But here's the bottom line. You've got to, and really it's okay, you've got to fuel the fire. You got to fuel the fire of your leading performers. This is a big takeaway, okay? You've got to fuel the fire of your leading performers, and if you don't, you might as well be throwing cold water on them. You might as well be snuffing the fire out. And so what I'm going to say as your word of caution don't be their leadership cap. If
Yeah.
we're gonna sit here and be worried about leading progress and order people, we've already stepped into the posture that we're going to be their cap. I've got people around me. There are people on this team that are more articulate than me. They are smarter than me. They have more ministry experience than me. They are better looking than me, right? And I have got to wake up every day and figure out, how do I not keep this team down? How do I keep them moving forward? So who's leading out? It's the principle of progress.
I think, Jim, we need to come back and have a whole webinar on just this progress and order idea, because we need order people on the team too, right? I mean, we've got to get stuff done, and so I think there's a lot of depth to plumb there.
Yep, absolutely, 100%. Let's do it. All right, number 3, who gets it? Here's your question. You're right now. Don't put the principle up yet, Brian. So who gets it?
Okay.
In your ministry that you're leading, who gets it? Like, who's coming to mind? Who's that person that comes to your mind that you're like, man, they just get it? This woman, this man, this ministry leader, you're like, wow, if I had 20 of, if I had 3 more of them, we could literally accomplish anything because they get it. And what's the principle here? We've heard this one before, but I think there's no better time than now to think about the principle of culture. Who gets where you are? Who gets who you are, right? I jotted down yesterday morning on the plane, Brian, I jotted down just a couple of kind of almost irreducible minimal characteristics. Listen, you can come up with 100 characteristics. You really can, right? But I do think at the end of the day, within your environment, you're going to identify, or I want to challenge you to identify some of those culture characteristics that you kind of maybe even see as kind of an irreducible minimum, right? I mean, these are non-negotiable maybe of these characteristics. I'm looking for someone who brings a solution with their problem. When I talk about somebody who gets our culture, and by the way, I mean, I'll speak very freely right now. This is an Auxano one. Bring a solution with the problem. Like, I love you. I'm sorry we got a problem. What's your solution? Let's think through this, right? Versus a problem-centric person.
Yeah.
Second one.
Jim,
go ahead, Brian.
Also notice you said brings a solution, not the solution, right? It may not be the right answer, but at least they're trying to work on it, right?
Right. Yeah, that's exactly right. I kind of have this little quirk in my leadership style, to when a question is asked of me that's a problem, is literally asking the first question, what is your recommendation?
Yeah.
What is your recommendation? What do you think we might ought to do? And I'm going to take that into consideration. We're going to have conversation around that. And it's either going to be the solution, or there's going to be some iteration of that that's going to lead us to a solution.
Yeah.
So solution-oriented, absolutely no question. Communicates clearly and effectively. Listen, number one, in this day and time, as it relates to the way that most ministry teams over the last 2 years have been somewhat fragmented, some much more extensively than others. I am looking for someone that's carrying a culture with us that's like, man, they're going to communicate clearly and effectively. And I mean with each other. I'm not talking about like a teaching pastor. I'm not talking about platform type speaking. I'm talking about the ability within the organization to communicate clearly and effectively. I'm looking for, as it relates to cultural characteristics, once again, looking at it through 2 lenses of Auxano as well as within the local church, is I'm looking for someone who is going to possess a growth mindset. There is this always moving forward, always growing, always striving for the next. We don't have to spend a whole lot of time here, because we all know that if you're not growing, you're in decline and you're dying. you're stuck in the status in this messy middle status quo, whatever, and you're going to get lost. You're going to get left behind. And so I'm looking as I think about who gets it. I'm looking at that person who's always pushing themselves, and quite frankly, end up doing what? They're always pushing me, right, as a leader. So, fourth one, I'm passionate about somebody. When I say somebody gets it, a characteristic I see of them is that they choose collaboration over personal attention. They would rather circle up with their peers and their team and their ministry leaders than they would go and do something all alone. It's more important for them, for other people, to the collective collaboration to get the attention and not themselves. And so there is some type of confident humility that's in play there, but it really has a lot to do with the desire to collaborate with other people. And then the last one, which is quite frankly, it either is first or it's the last one because it's the exclamation point. I don't know. It's one of the two. It's either first or last, right? I put it last because I want it to be the exclamation point. They've got to be able to promote, live and die the church's identity and vision. I mean, naturally, not in a rote way. I mean, I'm looking for someone who gets it. I'm sitting there going, dang. I mean, they inspire me. I'm like, what church are you talking about? Oh, wait, that's our church. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Like they're that good at it. Right? So, okay, so here's the deal. I'm looking for staff who and I want to challenge you to look for staff who love your culture and have that kind of healthy balance of a high relational IQ, right? Who love your culture, get it. And so the hiring process is huge. Do not, if you're on this call, if you're on this Zoom from Florida, do not call somebody to be on your staff that has absolutely no desire to even vacation in Florida. Okay? Working with the church, Brian, in Baton Rouge.
Yeah.
We've been doing a staffing process, and so just called.
You're saying don't hire an Alabama fan. Don't hire an Alabama fan if you're a church in Baton Rouge.
By the way, that is huge. Absolutely, that's huge. That is huge. However, there's one criteria that's even higher. Do not call somebody if you live in Baton Rouge that does not eat crawfish.
Right.
Because more than likely, they're not going to enjoy the culture down there, right? That's just a part of the culture. And I'm kind of being tongue-in-cheek here, but I hope the message is coming across there. You don't assume that they will grow into your culture, because most either get it, they either get the culture and they understand it, they love it, or they don't, as it relates to cultural fit.
Jim, I think I can think of
somebody within is a big deal.
Yeah, I think I can think of in both my own hiring experience through the years, but also teams I've been a part of. You can just look at a person who is not a cultural fit either for the church or community, and you know that as soon as they come, no matter why they accepted the call, the timer's running. Right? There's a timer that's running on when they're out of here, because they either don't fit the church culture and it was a great opportunity, or you're going to have to overpay them to get them to stay if you need them, or you're going to be thinking the whole time as a leader, oh my gosh, how do I get rid of this person? We wrote a piece, and Bob's going to drop it in the chat about hiring to values. For us, we would say, hey, values shape your culture. And so hire to values, not, hey, this guy looks good on paper, or this girl looks good on paper, but hey, there's things. And I see Northern Alberta. Yeah. If they're snow adverse, don't hire them in Northern Alberta.
Not going to work.
Right.
It's not
if you
don't
work. Like being inside 6 months out of the year.
Right.
That's huge. And I love that, Jim, that, there's a piece of that you got to think about on the front end, but also there's a reality in the middle of it. Okay, man, who's here but doesn't get the call? Who's trying to conform the culture to who they are? and really try to change the culture because of something they've got.
Right. Absolutely. I'll never forget calling someone from Texas. And once again, it's a culture of its own. And I'll never forget, about 3 months into their role in the position, they let it slip that when they crossed the border leaving Texas, they kind of set their heart down and they said, we'll be back to pick this up. And so I called somebody who came into our environment living on borrowed time. The clock was ticking.
Right.
The day they walked into the building, right? Because it wasn't a culture fit. They were an effective, efficient leader, ministry leader, right? They had success, but the culture fit wasn't there, and it just wasn't working. So, all right, let's move on. And I'm gonna probably catch some flack on this. I don't know. So here's the question: who are you putting up with? Hey, listen. Today, now, these are questions that we have to answer now. And quite frankly, most of us in here are following the principle of tolerance on this one. And so what are we doing? We're putting up with people on our team, and most everybody on this call probably has someone in your mind already that that they go through the motions, that you're tolerating them. And here's what's happening. It's something you never imagined that you would want to happen, is that this person is reflecting your leadership. They are lowering the standards of what it means to be on your team. And they're becoming this lame duck staffer that you don't move off the team, right? And so you have to ask this question: what is it that is, who do you not want on your team? Okay, who is it that whether that's 6 months from now or a year from now, asking the question, who are you, who's holding us back? So the bottom line is, here's the you have, as a leader, what you tolerate. And if you've been in that ministry position for more than 6 months, for more than a year, and you're still putting up with someone or some activity or some type of leadership quirk that they have, and you're tolerating it, you have what you tolerate. Now I want to give attribution to this statement, because I was serving in ministry as a young minister. It's been now pretty close to 25 years ago-ish. And a ministry leader, just a little bit older than myself, Mark Bricker. A few of you on this webinar know Mark, ministers down in McGregor Church in Fort Myers. And Mark and I had a conversation, and we were having a conversation. He was dealing with a tough issue. And when I was asking him about how he came to that decision, I was in my early 20s. He said, "Jim, I know as a leader that I have what I tolerate, and I have to be responsible, and I have to reconcile why I tolerate that." And so here's reality, leaders. Here's the challenge. Here's the comment. Don't let your personnel budget become your benevolence budget. Don't let your personnel. That's not fair to the church. That's not fair to other ministry leaders. That's not fair to other staff members that are on your team. We have what we tolerate, right?
Jim,
I don't know if it's just me, but that got sobering. We got to change the tone, right?
Well, yeah, that was. That's a hard truth, But the reality is, if you have a team of high performers and you have one underperformer, every one of those high performers knows it. You're tolerating that low performer out of some kind of care, concern, whatever the reasons there are, be them spiritual, unspiritual, or spiritualized, whatever you think. The reality is that underperformer doesn't have anywhere to go, but those high performers do. And if they see you tolerating low performance, they're either going to lower their standards or they're going to go somewhere where their performance is recognized. And so you may be stuck with the underperformer and those, because those high performers have some place to go. And I think this is a tough call, because we always want to, listen, we're here to shepherd and lead people. You started with that quote from Psalm and from David. There is a shepherding nature to this. But we've got to make sure that that's a personal difference, in a personal and benevolence budget is really tough there. How do we think about this, Jim? How do we move forward with that?
Yeah, so listen, there's nothing more solid than the challenge with your team, and especially someone who's underperforming or someone that you've been tolerating. Listen, you're not going to go wrong at all with with Collins and his his teaching and Good to Great on what a level 5 leader looks like, right? Moving from a highly capable individual, contributing team member, competent manager, effective leader, the executive. From where I sit many times, I don't have any desire to reinvent a wheel when something solid is out there that I can use to challenge a team, right? At Auxano, we also kind of challenge ministry leaders to have a leadership pipeline and to raise up leaders at various levels. It's slightly different than this. But as it relates to kind of increasing the effectiveness of someone, but listen, at the end of the day, you're probably going to have to reset expectations. You need to put them on an improvement plan, right? That you got a 60-day improvement plan. You put a date on it, you mark it, you let them know what happens at the end of that 60 days. Right, that puts the onus on them just as much as it is, more so than it's on you. It is a commitment that I made to myself as a ministry leader, both today and serving in the local church, was that I did not want to have regret for any decision that entailed me offboarding someone. I didn't want to have regret, and the regret would only come if, number one, I didn't communicate expectations, and if I didn't provide the leadership and the coaching that they needed along the way, and that if I didn't give them the window or the time to transition in an appropriate manner. And so an improvement plan, and then, listen, there's a lot of people who know me on here, and, I'm going to say it the way that I've said it in my head for probably close to 20 to 25 years. There's going to come a time where you pray somebody out, you guide somebody out, and if neither one of those work, you take them out. And I mean, you take them out because you have to let them go, right? You guide them out because you help them find a new place. You pray them out, they're able to go somewhere on their own. And every time I have come to a point to where I've done my part, it's an easier and faster decision, and it prevents me from tolerating them to the detriment of morale for my high performing team. And we've got to, as ministry leaders, we've got to answer that question: who are we putting up with? And it's that principle of tolerance. Okay, last one, Brian. Last one. Let's kind of tie this up and see if there's some low-hanging Q&A. Cherry pick the easy ones for me, if you don't mind. Save the hard ones for somebody else. No, I'm just kidding.
I'll drop questions in the Q&A in the chat.
Who is vision critical? I love this kind of thought. I love this thinking. My head is always going there. On my team, who's vision critical? Now, kind of a broad use of the word vision there right now, but really it's the principle of clarity, right? It's not just the clarity. I'm not talking about the clarity of our church, but who has it figured out? Who understands what it means for every church member to have a clear, it's critical that every church member have a clear engagement process and plan for the future, right? Okay, Brian. Every church member every single one has this clear engagement process for the future. And so what we're doing is, when we talk about who is vision critical, we're asking, have you developed your staff structure and your organization around specifically, if you've been around us long, we preach clarity. That's the banner we carry. That's our clarion call. And two sides of the clarity of the vision frame are strategy, or two parts of it are strategy and vision. Strategy is, how are we accomplishing the mission, right? How are we getting people engaged? How are we getting people assimilated into the life of our church? And engagement looks a little bit different today than it did two years ago. We were operating probably under a significant different feel and plan January the 20th of 2020, a month and a half, before most of our ministry worlds were rocked. And so if there's strategy, how are people getting engaged? Are they engaging? You come back and said, listen, there is a venue of worship that's critical. We have a discipleship pathway that includes groups. We have we have micro groups. We have one-on-one mentoring. Whatever our strategy is, but volunteering, those types of things. Whatever our strategy is, if we're not staffed to strategy, and then in addition, if we're not staffing toward a plan for the future, our vision, then I can almost guarantee you those two things, strategy and vision, in our church are not going to get traction. If you have a vision for your church and 4 years later it's a lame duck vision, I can almost guarantee you it's because someone, possibly it may be you, it may be me as a ministry leader, has set that banner down. No one's carrying it. And you only carry it when you feel like you have to carry it, because you've not staffed toward certain vision components. Use some examples. Some churches that have a vision to. One of the churches have a vision. Kay may be on the call here, to have a youth center, a youth mentoring program. That's not that particular vision is not going to come to fruition without a staff structure to help support it. And so when we name a certain vision and we name certain strategy, we've got to back it up with our staffing structure. And the problem is, most of our staffing structures are programmatic, or they're denominational, or they are historical. And it's what we've always had. And so your church, you as a leader, here's the clarity aspect. Here's the thing I want you to walk away with on this one. Is today, every church must have a clear engagement process and plan for the future. And hear this caveat, and staff toward it. Because if you don't staff toward it, then you are setting up strategy and vision for failure. Privileged to serve in some churches. I've spent decades with churches talking about the inability to have volunteers, to have a volunteer structure. Everything was siloed. Everybody's fishing from the same small pond. It's crowded space. Everybody's on their own. And it's chaos in this. And they come back and say, one of our strategy components is for people to volunteer, for people to serve, but yet they do not have someone who's providing oversight to that. Someone who is bringing it all together. Someone who is mobilizing the entire church in that way. So once again, it's critical. It's critical for every church to have a clear engagement process and plan for the future. But the staff.
Two thoughts to that, Jim. One is if nobody owns it, or if there's not one person that owns it, nobody owns it. It's not going to be done.
Yeah.
The other thought is,
absolutely.
and I know this feels a little cheeky, but when you ask the question, who is vision critical, is it possible that the answer is everyone should be?
Yes.
And if
Yes.
there's some that aren't, then
Yes.
it's,
Yes.
why? I guess
Yeah. Right.
why would you have someone on the team who their role, their position, their posture is not vision critical? If we didn't have that person, we could not get done what God has called us to get done. Is that the bigger question here?
It
Man,
absolutely is, because
okay.
you're either a primary banner carrier of one of those visions, of that strategy or that vision, or your role is to help support it or help to funnel people to it, right?
Right.
And if we got people on our staff not doing any of that, and by the way, pastoral care counts for that. Pastoral care is a foundational aspect for helping you to accomplish your vision, right? So, there are many, many positions that count for that, but there's a lot of positions that do not necessarily do that. And we're spending ministry dollars on it. And, it's questionable. Are we stewarding the Lord's resources in our church for that in a correct way? So you got 5 questions. Who needs a new challenge? And I really, this is my hope, okay? These are some questions that I believe they have emerged as more, that once again, these aren't brand new questions, but I will tell you they are elevated questions that are getting addressed every single day, multiple times across America within our churches. And so my challenge for you today is to really answer, to kind of wrestle with a couple of these questions and address them. Who needs a challenge? Who needs a new challenge, right? Who's leading out? Who gets it? Who are you putting up with? And who is vision critical? Some of that means you're going to give them kudos. Some of that means that you are going to, you're going to make sure that you are positioning them for something new and better. They're going to get a promotion in a week. And some of this may mean that someone's not going to be on your team in 30 days, right? Brian, a couple of takeaways. You want to do questions first? You want to do the next step? You do that first?
Let's talk about this. There's a couple of good questions that are coming up in the chat, and I want to process it and then do that. But Jim, I think there's a couple of clear next steps, for folks, that here's how we can help you in that. I think the reality is that, some people need help, need outside.
Oh, totally.
Strategic outsiders, our role in that.
Yep, absolutely. And you nailed it right there. When it comes to staffing and some of these issues, that sometimes there's some objectivity that comes from a strategic outsider. And so we have a 3-month process that we've been doing for probably almost a decade now, using various components, some of which we've talked about today, progress before order in the aspect of who's leading out, and several of the other ones that are on here where we talk about some of these competencies. We walk the team through a collaborative vision crafting environment where we kind of basically help them reorient their staff either around a new skill set, new effectiveness, possibly a reorg. In some cases, it's a reorg with the same team. Some cases, it's a downsizing. What we're spending a lot of time doing now, Brian, is we're really kind of forecasting the future and kind of mapping. They've got a new vision. They've moved beyond their 2020 stale vision the 2020 vision that they achieved before the pandemic hit and had been in limbo. And now they've got a new vision, and we're helping them staff toward that vision. We're helping them staff toward that. And so it's typically about a 3-month process. We do personality assessment on everybody that's in the room, that's a part of the staff team that we're doing this, typically up to about 12 people, and just kind of helping the pastor, ministry team, leadership team, regardless of the size of the church. We've worked with churches of 250 to churches of almost 8,000 to 9,000 doing this. So it's
staffing to engagement. At the end of the day, it's staffing to engagement. How do we engage people? How do we, staffing to disciple making engagement really is what that looks like there.
That's right. You nailed it.
Yeah. And then Jim, the other piece of it is sometimes that last slide, there is a gap of strategy. There's a gap of vision for the future, especially maybe now in this season. And so we're right now helping churches in that range. And there's more questions coming in the Q&A for the chat. So I can't wait to get to those. But talk about this real quick, 7 to 12 month visionary identity processes. And then I want to hit a couple questions.
Yeah. So super obvious, if you don't have a strategy, if you don't have a vision, then it's going to be hard to staff towards strategy and vision, right? Yeah. So if there's a vacuum there. So some churches need to go through a clarity identity, who they are. You can't have values-based staffing if you don't have values, right? You can't, so there's, it's our process for clarity for church organizations that want to have the clarity. If you don't have organizational clarity, you need to start here before you move into a staffing organizational process.
Yeah, love it. Hey, Jim, we're going to hit Q&A, and one of the first ones comes to, and I'm kind of jumping back through. I apologize for the distraction on the screen. Leading out. We talked about leading out in that question number 2. Who is leading out? The principle of progress. Can you explain the words there, leading out? What do you mean by that?
This particular one, I wanted you as a leader. Some of the questions are meant to challenge you of maybe who you not need to have on your team, right? But in this particular case, it really is asking the question: who is somebody that's maybe standing out? They're taking the organization, they're taking their ministry a lot further in a comparative way than other ministries, right? And you may see, for example, here's an example. Just literally spent quite a bit of time with the church in Gainesville. Once again, maybe on the call with us today. College pastor, become adult discipleship pastor, becomes executive pastor. A progression of probably less than 15 to 18 months for that to happen. Why? Because this particular pastor was a leading out. They were leading out, and that the lead pastor had to kind of have their aha of going, wow, he has this skill set. He's leading out, and I'm in the need for an executive pastor. And so instead of running a risk of someone across the country, I don't even know who they are, right? And so it's that idea. So this particular pastor had the progress before order. Hey, we're going to keep this moving forward, but yet had this strong sense of order.
Yeah.
Hope that helps. Hope that clarifies.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. One other question was talking about the vision critical piece. Who is vision critical? And is there another word beside vision critical? I mean, could you use the word essential? Who is vision essential?
Yeah.
And we're not
essential.
asking this question. Jim, I feel like your heart is not to ask this question to see who is eliminated because they're not vision critical or vision essential.
That's right.
It's really, is our vision so clear that everyone understands their part in it? Everyone understands how they're advancing this missional call to make disciples and these kind of picture of the future. So we're not asking this question to like, hey, okay, who's not critical or who's not essential? We can cut those heads and save some money. We're saying, hey, listen, have we articulated, and I think that's a thread through all of them, that listen, if you have a team of high performers, those leading out, let's go back to those progress before order. The thing that's going to keep you most frustrated is your lack of clarity in keeping them aligned in the same direction, because you're going to have to manage a lot of sideways energy if you have not established vision and this, and because now they're all running the right direction, and you're really kind of managing it. Is that fair to say?
Oh man, it's perfectly said. Very well said, Brian. And just to kind of put put a certain level of responsibility, it's the ministry leaders on this call that have oversight of that to make sure that everybody on their team is aligned around strategy and vision, that they know their role in fulfilling that. And so, before I would ever put an indictment on a person on your team, I would come back to the ministry leader and say, have you made sure that everyone understands they are vision critical? Everyone on your team. And if they're not, if you deem them as not, then that needs to be addressed.
Well, if someone on your team is not vision critical, at first that's not their problem; it's your problem.
Right? Exactly.
Because your people are exactly where
their problem too, but it becomes
Your people are exactly where you've led them to be.
That's right.
So, thanks, Jim. Good stuff. A lot of great thanks and coming through there. We're gonna process this, send out the replay. A lot of folks are asking for this. beyond the fact, and I see a lay leader saying, "Hey, listen, we're looking for a pastor, so this is helpful." To you guys, understand the values. You don't have to have every question about the future answered, Laurie, but understand your culture and your values, and hire a leader who can lead through that culture with those values, and then you guys will find the future together. We trust Holy Spirit's work in our lives to do that. So thanks everyone for being a part. Jim, thanks for this great new content.
Yep. Brian, thanks for letting me hang out with you today. And man, let me just remind everybody, David, he shepherded them with a pure heart. So have a pure heart, but use skillful hands. And we're giving you some skillful hands. We can't change your heart. My prayer is that God changes your heart. God has your heart where it needs to be. But we want to give you some skills in your hands and tools in your hands to use. So Brian, thanks for the opportunity, the privilege to do this today.
Thanks, Jim. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you soon.